Hello everybody, Reggie Time here with an update on how the challenge is going. First of all, we'll get the really brilliant news out of the way, and that is so far I have already received £223 in other donations or percentages from coaching packages that have sold. That is absolutely phenomenal. I'm delighted with that. We can certainly do better still though. I've updated the goal to try and make at least £300 from donations, so we've still got £70 odd to go to achieve that, and if we get to 300 we'll try and get more. Please do keep the donations coming, they're very much appreciated, and I'd be delighted if I could take £500 or more to the youth club in a few weeks time when we complete the challenge, so please keep that going. Please keep liking the videos, sharing the videos, try and raise as much awareness for this as we can, and hopefully we can do something really good. We're going to start the video with a hand review, 28 hands to look at, and then we're going to finish off with like a few observations on how I feel it's going so far. We'll check out the results so far, then I'll assess how I think I'm doing, and I'll assess things that I've noticed about the pool. It's kind of a bit of a PTO session. It's a game theory optional. We're going to go for population theory optimal strategies going forward, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that more at the end of the video. So we're just going to like whiz through these hands. A lot of them are going to be cool. As I ran a filter just to I've said like 8,000 hands since the last episode, so I ran a filter for all pots played over 60 big blinds over those 8,000 hands, and it's already popped up with 28. So we'll get going. I've hidden my HUD stats, and I've hidden my VPIP PFR and a 3-bet from the other ribbons that we're going to be looking at, so with the other tabs we're going to be looking at, because that doesn't really matter what my VPIP PFR is just yet. We'll talk about all that at the end of the challenge. It's not something that I think we want to or need to discuss just now though. So here we go, we have the Ace King. There's been a limp and a raise. The stud stats are up, but basically most of these players are still unknown, so I'm not really looking at names when I'm playing. I'm just kind of trying to play against how I think the general population plays in these games. We're going to make some mistakes, of course, by maybe doing things wrong against loose or tight players, but overall I'm just very much playing the population. So anyway, it's been a limp, and there's been a isolation, there's been a 3-bet by us. The limper calls, as you would expect from someone who's playing 70-25, and then the isolator guy goes all in. We obviously re-isolate with our Ace King, and then this guy goes all in as well. Everyone's all in, and we river an ace. Is that going to be good? Yes, we got it in against pocket 3s and King 5 offsuit. That is pretty sweet. So we'll take that one on the first hand. Drag down a $15 pot at 5NL, which is not to be sniffed at. Second hand, we have 2 queens. We open to 15. Button here calls. Everything gets out of the way. 8, 9, 10. It's good flop for queens, I guess. We don't want tons of action, I don't suppose, but we're going to get it. So we start with the C-bet. This player raises. I checked where he's from. He's from Latvia. I kind of thought, Latvians are pretty nitty. They're not super aggressive, but queens is just way too strong to fold here at the moment. We have an overpair. We have a gut shot. It's a pretty wet board. I think it'll be way too tight just to fold right now. So we called. Turns a pretty good card for us. It reduces the combinations of pocket 8s he can have, of course, and it gives us outs to a boat at least if he has flopped a straight or something. So we check. He bets 129. We call again. The river is a 3rd 8, so we now have a full house, which is pretty sweet. Still lose to pocket 9s and pocket 10s, of course, but now we're beating all the straights and what have you that he's gone with, and of course he can still have like missed flush draws and things. So we check again. So if he is bluffing, if he has got a hand like an Ace Jack of Hearts or an Ace King of Hearts, Ace Queen of Hearts, that type of thing, giving chance just to blast off if he wants to. He absolutely blitzes into us, and we talked about this in the previous video where I just called a river where I think I should have gone all in. It's one of the situations where this time I did go all in, rather than just call his bet and leave 136 behind. He calls. Sadly, the extra 136 went to his stack and not mine, because he had 2 kings. Fair play. He played the hand well, I think. I mean, he probably should 3-bet pre-flop, cut off versus, well, he should almost certainly 3-bet pre-flop, button versus cut off, but he didn't, and then he got a really good flop and took all of my sandwiches, but never mind. Queen 10 off suits, not a very Reggie time hand, is it? We defend versus the small under the gun open. We flop a gut shot. Wow, why do I lead out there? I guess I must have thought I've seen, well, clearly I've not been thinking. Whatever I've been doing here, I've not been thinking. It's certainly not in my strategy to lead out with gut shots. So I'd just assume probably that I've been the pre-flop raiser or whatever. I probably thought it's blind versus blind and I've raised. But either way, it's a mistake. I'm not going to try and gloss over it. But this isn't a strategy I use, so clearly I've looked at when this hand's come back to me, because I cascade my tables. When it's come back to me, I've not realised that I've not been the pre-flop aggressor, and I've led out and been called. I've led out again on the turn, which kind of makes sense given that I thought I was a pre-flop raiser. Still got my gut shot, my 1-over card. Our opponent calls again, and we river the nuts, which is sweet. And we go with an overbet. Our opponent raises us, which is pretty fruity. At this point, I don't remember the hand now, but I'm presuming that I'm chopping. Obviously, we're not chopping because if we'd chopped it, wouldn't have been a 1 or lost 60 big blind pot. But we go all in. Our opponent calls, and he just got coolered, really. 2 kings. Raise from pretty aggressive player. I wouldn't have known this at the time. A 3-bet, he calls. So looking very standard so far. We c-bet, he calls. We barrel the turn. He calls. Oh, he raises. Fruity. This is indeed fruity. Right, so what would I like to see myself do here? I think they just like jamming here, I think. It's pretty hard to say how we beat. If we beat, it's by pocket 6s or quad 5s. Pretty much nothing. I guess he can have like ace 5, 5, 6 as well. I like to see myself jamming here. I mean, he could just be raising with a queen. He could have turned a flush draw, I guess, although I would expect him to bet bigger. But I think I just like jamming here. We could call and just like check call any river. But I think I prefer to jam. I did just call though. I'm guessing we're going to check. He goes all in. We can't fold, of course. And he just had a random 9-8. So it worked out that time that we did call on line to continue bluffing. I guess we're going to flop a set here. Oh, yes. There's the set. We looked at this hand before. Have I caught this hand by mistake? I think we've seen this one before. Maybe I've gone back and looked over too many hands. I'm not sure. Anyways, we have a set. We check call. We check call. And we check call again. I'm pretty sure we've seen this hand. He turns up with pocket 10s, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I don't know if we've seen that one before. Maybe we're going to end up looking at a couple of hands that we've seen before. If so, I do apologise. I thought I'd set the filter for just like the last... all the hands I've played since the last video, but maybe I haven't. We'll see. 2 aces. We 3-bet versus a maniac, and I wouldn't have been aware that it was a maniac. He just goes all in. We have the easy call, and he had 2 queens. Let's check suited, open under the gun. We flop a gut shot. I think this is a c-bet. It's not ideal. We've only got 1-over card. There's like lots of other stuff that's going to just not fold here. I don't think we have a ton of fold equity, but I think we need to c-bet here. I do. I get called in 2 spots. Turn the nuts. I bet again. I get a fold. He check raises us. Now, I mean, all ins clearly they play here. which we do. He calls river and ace, so you would expect it to be a chop sometimes, but we know it's not going to be. He just had the king 5 suited. Don't think I like his turn check raise here. I think we played the hand fine, of course, but I think his defend pre kind of not impressed. I mean, we've raised under the gun. I think we could just fold king 5 suited pre-flop. Raised under the gun. Then after the flop, I mean, you clearly check call for him. Possibly check raise the flop even. If he was a check raise, I think check raising the flop's better than check raising the turn, because on the turn he has top pair, so he doesn't need to bluff. He can just check call and see some rivers. So yeah, I don't like our opponent's play there. I think he's definitely overplayed his hand. It's king suited for us. Someone just goes all in. We obviously call with our ace king. And he had ace 10. Not much to say about that really. I mean, he's obviously just lost his mind. Ace queen suited for us with 3-bet. Get the cold 4-bet. And this is something I'm going to talk about at the end of the video, but we're just briefly touching it now. I think I've been stacking off just a little bit too light pre-flop. I've been getting it in too light with mostly ace king, a couple of times with like media, not that sort of jacks and tens as well. And I think I need to slightly reconsider my pre-flop all-in ranges in these games, because I just don't think the 3-bets and the 4-bets are anywhere near as wide as we need them to be to stack off with the ranges I've been stacking off with. Anyway, here I kind of understand this guy's a regular. I understand he's going to have some cold 4-bet bluffs. I decided to 5-bet jam with my ace queen. Obviously expecting to get some folds at least, and hopefully if not be up against sometimes some jacks and tens and things. Anyway, we run into ace king, but we hit our queen, so we got lucky there. And again, we'll touch on that a little bit later on towards the end of the video. Ace 5 suited here, we open, we get 3-bet from the button. I didn't know anything about this player again. What do I want to see myself do here? I hope I don't peel. I'd rather see myself 4-bet here, I think. If we're going to do anything, 4-bet bluffing. But again, we look at some of these like 3-bet stats. There isn't just that much 3-betting in these games. So do we just 4-bet bluff here? Can we just fold this hand? And, you know, the times he is just 3-betting us with like a 10-9 suited and stuff, he just gets to win. I'm not sure. Anyway, I called, which I really don't like. I'm not sure why I've done that. Don't like it. But we flop the world. We go for a check raise. He calls. We turn a straight, which is beautiful. We go all in. He calls. And I think he can probably fold his aces on the turn there. On the 3 especially. If the turn's like, I don't know, an offsuit queen or something, then yeah, I guess he needs to go with it, given how like stopping wet the board is. But when the turn completes the 3 as well, I mean, yeah, I shouldn't have too much 5x in my range. But I think call on breaks, fold on cards at complete draws, I think would be a better line for him there, but maybe that's just me. Anyway, we won that one. So go us. 3-bet the tens. Cold 4-bet jam comes in, and this is where I'm making some mistakes here. I don't remember this hand actually. Again, I think this is a situation where I have missed either that all in or that all in. I think I went in one of them, because this is a completely trivial fold. It's not even close. It's just a really easy fold. This is, again, because I'm playing 6 tables, I'm going to make some of these mistakes when I've just not seen the action properly. We touched it the other night when I didn't notice a cold 4-bet. Sorry, but I didn't. What was it? I didn't notice. Yes, I didn't notice a cold 4-bet, and then we ended up calling a cold 4-bet with 7-6, which fortunately we won. It's happened again here, because this is just a completely trivial fold. So I've clearly only noticed one. Even, well, just to like touch on this some more, even if he had folded and he'd just gone all in, I think this is still a fold. But given there's 2 all-ins, it's a monumentally trivial fold. But yeah, again, we're going to touch on it at the end, so we'll not go over it too much now. Well, clearly we just ran into 2 monster hands and we rightly got our asses kicked for it. 2 kings, 3 bet, 4 bet, 5 bet jam, all in. We lose to the aces. Incredibly trivial, that one. Not going to admonish myself for that one. We open the ace king, we get 3 bet, we 4 bet, he goes all in, we call, and we lose to queens. Again, pretty damn standard, one would imagine, but maybe it shouldn't be. Ace 8 offsuit, this isn't a Reggie time situation, is it? Now there's the 11 raise. When's this hand from? The 9th. This is from, no, well, yeah. Okay. Ah, yes, that's another thing I want to. It's reminding me. It's another thing I want to talk about at the end. We flop nothing, but we c bet. We get a call. We turn pretty well. He leads into us. I just had to raise at this point, which I don't hate. I don't love it against. Never known the guy was a fish. I don't love it either. But I mean, we've got 9 outs to the nuts and possibly 3 more for the gut shot. He calls. We river nothing. Do we? We don't have anything there, do we? Oh, fuck knows what happens here. He checks. We go all in. As a bluff, I'm presuming to try and make him fold a hand like, well, anything basically that isn't a straight, I guess, or a flush. I mean, he should be folding all of his 2 pairs and things here, in my opinion. So, I mean, let's go back and look at this in more detail, actually. Now we know what happens. Like the open, he defends. I like the c-bet, it's a good board for us. He defends. He bets a turn. We raise because we turn some good equity. He calls. And then the river gives us a good opportunity to bluff. If he doesn't have a jack, he shouldn't really be calling, basically. He needs at least a jack here to call, in my opinion. We go for the overbet jam. We do get snapped off. And he just has the king queen. So yeah, this reminds me of something else to talk about at the end. Something that I've changed my strategy since this hand in these games. In fact, I will talk about it now because I'm forgetful as fuck. I was up until Friday afternoon. It's now like 3 o'clock on Sunday morning. I was doing the whole min raise button, 2.4x from the cut off, 2.6x from under the gun and what have you. And it was going okay-ish, but then I started realising, well, I'm not getting 3-bet very much. The whole point for using smaller sizings is to make it less profitable for people who are using like an aggressive 3-betting strategy. But I mean, if you just look around, there's just not big 3-bet stats. I mean, 8.1, even that's not big, you know. It's we got another guy over here, 2.5, 3.6. So I just started upsizing. I just started 3xing from all positions, making larger C bets, because most of my games, like, kind of, when you're using the smaller sizes and you're using, like, you're trying to like bluff more and do a few things, you kind of play more of a red line game than a blue line game. And my game's historically been more of a blue line game. So I just kind of had a realization halfway through a session. You know, you're not playing to your strengths here. You're not exploiting the pool well, not exploiting the pool. You're playing a style that doesn't need to be played in this pool. So you kind of, I felt I was exploiting myself by just not making pots big enough where my range is going to be stronger than my opponent's. You know, it just typically is. I mean, I'm a tight player. My range is typically stronger than my opponent's. So I should be looking to build bigger pots most of the time. So we started 3xing from all positions and we stopped c-betting like 40%. We started c-betting 60, 66%. And then also making bigger c-bets in 3-bet pots with our like strong draws and value hands too. And I think that's been a good adjustment. It's worked pretty well. And yeah. So if you are playing these games, particularly like 5-0, I would say there's a bit more 3-betting and 10-0. If you are playing 5-0 snap particularly, and you are using like 2.5x at any point, or you're using a less than 50% size in your c-bet strategies and what have you, I would advise just putting a bit more juice in everything you're doing, and you're going to see you're just going to win more money. Basically, the bigger your value bet, the more money you win effectively. You know, whenever you're thinking of value betting, add a few more big blinds to it and just print some more money. Basically, that's I guess that's what I'm saying. Anyways, we need to crack on. We're only halfway through these hands and we've already got a 20-minute video. I mean, I don't give a shit how long it takes. It'll take what it takes, but yeah, there's a lot more to talk about still. Yep, we 3-bet under the gun here with our jacks. He goes all in. I think when people go all in, I think it's probably needs to be a call. I'd be much less inclined to get the money in here if he'd made this, say, 110, for example. I think when he makes it all in, I think it makes it quite an easy call for us, because when people do this, if it's a nit doing it, then you can maybe make a case of folding, but most of the time it's just people they're going to have usually ace king, ace queen, that type of thing, and sometimes some worse pairs. So we can't be folding jacks here when someone just like smashes all in over a normal 3-bet sizing. And he did have 10s that time. Ace king for the good guys. We get 3-bet. See, and yeah, we're going to talk about this later anyway, so let's not bother too much talking about it now. Yeah, this was still when we're doing the whole small c-bet thing. We get raised. Just fold, Reggie. Just fold. It's a 4-bet pot. You've been check raised on this board. We're not going to fold, clearly. Yeah, I fucked that one up. No point pretending otherwise. We ran into pocket queens. I mean, I don't hit the c-bet. It's a 4-bet pot, so we have aces, kings, queens in our range a lot. Our range is heavily dominated by those hands. But when we get check raised and we only have ace king, it's a trivial fold. And that was a conscious thing I did as well there. I knew, like, when I called, I was like, well, gee, you might just have like the king, queen of hearts or something, but you know, we didn't. And when I made that call, I knew it was a bad one. That's probably one of the worst played hands that we've looked at so far, because I consciously called there, just hoping he was on the draw, when you know it's going to be like jacks, queens, kings. Well, maybe not kings, but jacks, queens, tens. It's like they will do it a lot. They call 4-bets out of position. They get what they think to say a flop for their like slightly less than premium pairs, like tens, jacks, queens, and then they just go with it. So that's definitely a pretty big mistake from me. 3-bet the ace 9. That's completely fine. We flop a 9. I think going into check call mode's pretty okay here. I think now we should probably think about check shoving the turn, which we do. He calls and we fill up. He had, what the fuck was his turn call all about? What did he call off on the turn there? 259. So take 250 off our stack. He's called 50 blinds off with a good shot. Okie dokie. We'll take it. Do 3-bet somebody here. I would never 3-bet. Had I known this guy was playing 15/3, this is never a 3-bet. This is an easy call. He leads into us. We raise, obviously with our gut shot and 2 overs. Sorry, our gut shot, 2 overs and a flush draw. I mean, we just got way too much equity here to do anything else. He donk and 3-bets us. We just, here we go, get it in. We do with the flush, and I mean, that's interesting from him that he just calls 3-bets, donks pot with top set. I mean, this is what these nits do. I mean, his play is not great here. He's just praying that I've got aces, kings, queens, I guess, or having what I had. Yeah, not much to say about that really. Don't like his play at all. It should be the most standard check raise ever for him there, or maybe sometimes check call. Donking pot, You got a lot of ace king there that's just like ace king offsuit and shit that I just can't call when he donks pot, so I don't like his line. He kind of got lucky that I had a hand that could pay off his set, then he got unlucky that I sucked out on him. And then pot here, don't see many of these. We lead out with our flush draw, we get check raised, we call, we turn a king, he leads, we just call again. No, I was in the previous hand, I'm praying I didn't jam then. Well, not praying because I'm not religious, but I'm glad I didn't jam. There's just no reason to raise. You remember the king 5 hand from earlier where we had the straight, he had the pair and the flush draw. There's no reason to. I mean, there's a good chance we've gone ahead of him here with the king. When he check raises the flop, he's going to have lots of like pocket 10s, pocket 9s, ace 7, some flush draws too. There's just no reason to raise here. And he jams the river, and I think we just have to call, you know. It's unfortunate now that we've got 2 spades ourselves because we do block his flush draws. But I think it's just one of those spots where against somebody who isn't starting with the full stack and who we probably think is a fish. I think we need to call. But he had the set, so good news for him. 2 kings, we 3-bet, call, great flop, c-bet. What do I want to see myself do here? I think I like just a call here and just like let him jam the turn. But at the same time, he's committed like almost half his stack to this pot, so I'm happy with either. I think ideally I'd like to see myself call, but I've no issue with a jam. We can just jam ourselves now. He calls anyway. And he had the 7-4, which is kind of unfortunate when it's a 3-bet pot and someone just flops the world, but never mind. This is back when we were still using our smaller sizes. We 4-bet the aces, all in, call. I remember this hand. We go all in here now because we just assume this guy's pretty much committed to his hand. And so this is like the interesting guy in this pot. Let's go back to the start so we can see exactly what's happened. We've opened short stacks squeezed. He's re-isolated. We call his re-isolation to allow this guy to jam, which I think is a really important point to note. In your situations like this, don't get too excited when you're racing, just like jam, because this guy's got enough to reopen the betting. If he doesn't have enough to reopen the betting, then jamming's maybe better. But because he's got enough to reopen the betting, and it's going to be such a small amount, this guy's going to have to at least call. I think it's good to notice when the betting is going to be reopened if this guy does what we hope he does. So he does go all in. He calls. We then just go for the lot now, thinking we're trapping him for his entire stack, and he somehow managed to find a fold, which is genius on his part because we had aces. But I think that putting 40 blinds in here and folding for your last 60, because if I had ace king here, I'd do exactly the same thing. Anyways, worked out good. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of putting 40 blinds in with all this dead money in the pot too and then folding. But maybe you just had like a super ninja read. Squeeze the ace king suited. We flop pretty well. Jam the turn. He calls. And he had the ace queen. Thoroughly dull pot. 2 9s. We 3-bet them. He calls. I think this is standard check call on the flop. He doesn't. Then we turn a 9. We bet. He calls. We river the boat. We bet. He calls. Yeah, whatever. Pocket 10s. I think his play's fine there. Once we check the flop, I think he probably needs to be calling down with 2 10s there. Ace king. We squeeze. We get a caller. We flop an ace. How incredibly excited. He checked jams, we snap him off, and we beat the Queen 5 suited. Flop a set. And we need to raise his turn because of his sizing. He's just like half pot, so we need to start building this pot. So I go with a very small raise. He calls. Not an ideal river. He bets 485, and I think we can only call here. I mean, we can't fold, I don't think. Yeah, backdoor straight's got, sorry, backdoor flush got there, backdoor straight's got there. But I don't think we can or should be folding. I call, and he's just rivered a 6 and decided to turn it into a bluff, I guess. I guess that's what he's doing. We call a 4x open from a fish with Queen 10 suited. We raise our 2 overs and flush draw versus the that weak lead and the weak call, which I think is completely fine. He calls. We turn a 9, which gives us a gut shot to go with our flush draw. Decided to go with a large bet. I think I prefer to see myself over bet there, to be honest. Yeah, I do. I think we should just be over betting here. I don't like that sizing at all. I'd much rather see me just like jam, bet 6, bet 5, even just potting it, you know, just making like a committing size bet. Because now we check min raises. Remember this hand now. Check min raises. We have to call because we're getting like absurd pot odds. So we do. And then we break the river. He jams and we fold. And so yeah, I just much prefer over betting. There, we carry much more fold equity. It doesn't give him a chance to make a move on us, and also it just commits us to what is a shit ton of equity anyway. So yeah, overall, don't like the way I played that one too. I think we should just overbet the turn. We raise ace-8, blind versus blind. We flop nothing, but we c-bet, which I think is fine. He calls. We turn an 8. We barrel. He raises. He can make a very strong argument for just folding here, particularly as we have the ace of hearts. He's not repping very much, so I think my thought process at the time here was, well, if you had a 6, would he not just continue slow playing? If you had a full house, would he not just continue slow playing? I'm a bit leery when on these boards, when we get raised on the turn, especially when they're playing in position, I get a little bit leery, and I'm like, well, really, he's not repping that much here. I mean, of course he can have some 6x, but I think most guys just call here with a 6x. I don't think the population's raising with trips or better here very often. So I called. Who was a 10? We check. Completely bricks off, and I think once we call the turn there, we need to call brick rivers. Otherwise, the turn call's like burning money. So I did call, and he just had like a random king there. So going on to the last hand of the review, King Jack suited. All in pair, we ISO, call, fold. Flip a flush draw, we just call. I think I prefer seeing a raise there. Yeah, just raise Reggie, stop being a dick. Ace on the turn, and we start bluffing now, and the bet's not big enough. The bet needs to be bigger. This is when I'm back at like Friday morning, so this is when I'm still trying to do the whole small sizing thing. And then we just guess we make a futile attempt at like overbetting the river or something, do we? No, we just like we underbet the river, but that's still a fair size. But yeah, we should just raise this flop, and the hand will play out differently, I guess. Yeah, we raise the flop, he just folds. I don't like it. I think I'm playing better now than I was playing at the start of the challenge. I would certainly play this hand differently now. I would raise with it. I think like if we're playing higher stakes, and like I know why I'm doing this is like I know why I'm doing this because at the time I still had like a playing higher stakes hangover where we don't want to be raising on paired boards, etc., against better players because we don't represent very much. It's whatever it is. It's 5-0. We're not going to be playing too many good players, and I've gone very much back to raising in spots where it's hard to be balanced, and good players would figure out that it's not a good spot for you to be raising, so therefore, you're likely making some kind of exploitable error. I just don't think that's the situation in these games. This should just be a fucking slam dunk raise. 2 overs and a flush draw. Let's go. Let's raise and see what happens. But we didn't. We just called. And then we butchered the rest of the pot. But never mind. I think I'm definitely playing better now than I was then. But let's have a look and see how the overall results are going. So now we'll get this back from... So we clear all these filters off first, don't we? Get rid of that filter. That's how it's gone since the last session. We've made $86. We should have only won 19. We've been running hugely above EV. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. And then we'll just see how we're doing for the whole challenge so far. We're 12,000 hands in, which is really pleasing. We've only had like 3 days of play. I think what we've done Friday, Saturday, Sunday, something like that. Sorry, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm not sure, but we haven't played many days anyway. So I'm really happy with how many hands I've got in so far. It's a big grind for me. Crushing it at 12 bigs to 100 at the moment, but we're only EV 5 bigs to 100. Sweet hourly, considering we're only playing 5 and 10 now, but of course that's because of that. We can cut that in half, really. At the start of the challenge, I was thinking if I get an hourly of $4 an hour out of it, I'd be really quite pleased. If we get a win rate of anything above 5 big blinds 100, I'd be really pleased. 6, 7, 8. I think 10's possible. I think somewhere between 6 and 8 is likely, but I wouldn't be at all surprised to see it around 5 either, because the rate's pretty high and what have you. But yeah, overall, really pleased with how it's going. This is how it looks in graph form. Pretty sweet. Not so sweet when we look at this way, but you know, it is what it is. I'll take the run good while it's there, because there's better to be some run back coming, so we'll take it. But this leads me on to what I want to talk about for the last few minutes of the video. My pre-flop strategies of like what I'm getting all in with. I've just been like 3-bet, 5-bet shoving ace king, or 4-bet calling off ace king and things. And I think when you're playing 30 and L, 25 and L and higher, I think that's probably okay. I've been getting like pocket tens and jacks in pre-flop too, and I just find him that we're not in good shape when we do that. Just pause a moment because it sounds like my missus is having a bit of a meltdown upstairs, getting up for a wee or something, and she might come downstairs. We'll pause for a sec. Is to getting back to the pre-flop ranges. I think like getting it in with ace, king, jacks, tens is a losing play in these games, and I'm gonna adjust my 3-bet strategy somewhat. I've been 3-betting a reasonable amount so far. I'm gonna be much more polarized with it. I'm not gonna be doing an awful lot of like 3-betting hands that I don't want to get 4-bet with. So like stuff like ace queen, ace king, pocket jack, stuff like that. Because when we get 4-bet, I think I've been finding in these games that when the 4-bets come in, apart from maniacs, you're just up against like the narrowest of ranges, and I've been giving too much action. I've been getting away with it, as you can see by my EV line. I've been winning my fair share, or more than my fair share, of flips, stucking out a couple of times. But I think overall it's time to learn now that we're just going to be flatting with a lot, and we're going to be maybe switching to a 3-bet strategy of like 3-betting maybe like aces, kings, queens, some ace king and like ace king suited, maybe not the ace king off, so maybe 3-bet the ace king off, not the ace king suited. I haven't put tons of thought into it yet. Or maybe even just like 3-betting the ace king but just folding it to a 4-bet, that type of thing. And then just mixing in some suited connectors and stuff. I think ace king is going to be like read dependent. I mean, aces, kings, queens are going to be 3-bets against everybody, of course, but I think it's like the ace king. I think it's a losing player to get ace king pre-flopping, certainly at 5 and L, probably at 10 and L2. I think when you're getting it in, you're going to be getting it in against kings, against aces, against queens, way too often, and it just doesn't do well against that range. So yeah, we're going to be toning that down. and just trying to do what I feel I do best, which is just keep pot small pre-flop, and then look to try and play some good creative poker post-flop. I'm not a particularly creative pre-flop player, but I like to think that post-flop my game stacks up against anyone in the pools I put myself in. I think pre-flop, it's fine. Nothing wrong with my pre-flop game. It's a bit nitty, but I think post-flop's where my edge lies, and post-flop with deep stacks, that's where my edge is, and I need to try and generate more of those situations. I think I've been giving people a chance too much with, like, for example, with 3-betting ace-jack versus the cut-off, and then the peeling with the whatever, and then we're missing, and we're making life too easy for them when we can just like maybe just call with the ace-jacks, and then look to play some smaller pots where we can be more creative, where they're going to have a wider range, where they're going to have more c-bet plus, where we can look to work in some check raises and things. And I think that's how I prefer to play. I think it suits me better. I think it certainly suits these games better too. I think I've been effectively like manipulating my opponent's ranges in a way that's bad for me. So we're going to try and work on that going forward, and hopefully cut out some of the all-in pre-nonsense, and hopefully look to like getting some more fun spots post-flop instead. But overall, I mean, we've got to really like the shape of that graph. We've had a few sharp downswings. Nothing major. Is it looking big blinds, just so we can like see the downswings in big blinds rather than dollars? Because when you're playing two limits, sometimes it can not be the same, not be truly representative of how your swings have been, but they're pretty similar, to be fair. So we've had like downswings so far at night. What's that? 13 stacks down to. Since that's just like a 3 buying downswing there, nothing. 12 down to. Yes, we haven't had any big downswings yet. I don't recall there been a session where we've been more than 2 buy-ins down at any point. So yeah, it's going really, really well. So just to sign off now, because it's gone pretty long video, 42 minutes. Please do continue to like, share, subscribe. It's really important that we try and get as many views for these videos as possible. And if you haven't yet made a donation but you're thinking about it, please do, come along and make the donation. The link is I haven't put my PayPal link in it, but I'm not going to put that in either. Get in touch if you want to make a donation. Get in touch in the comments. I'll tell you how to do it. And if you want to buy a coaching session at the moment, I'm giving 20% of all money I make from coaching to the challenge too. So now's a good time to try and get a coaching session too. I think we'll leave it there. Any questions, any comments, please do share them, and we'll see you again probably in a few days when we've got maybe another at least 5,000 or 6,000 hands to review. Bye bye for now.